You're listening to the Mezzo Guild podcast.
بس أنا لازم أحسه الأول عشان أقوله.
아직 나의 어색한 한국말이 짤따рат하고 지적하진 말아주세요.
Я хочу с тобой серьезно поговорить.
Eigenlijk niet eens verder gaat. Nou, ik weet het wel dienen ze hier zo.
Language learning, made simple. You know, there are always going to be times in language learning where we feel like we're not improving. Or, you know, perhaps we just don't even know where to go from here. Usually when we hit these intermediate stages in a language where we're communicating okay, we've finished all of the chapters of a book, we've gone through, you know, might be Duolingo or some kind of online course where we've reached the end point, and you kind of get this stage where you're like, all right, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go from here. I don't know what's next, and it's not clear. And it honestly, I have to say, this is probably one of the most challenging things in language learning. It's when you no longer have somebody there or something there, basically holding your hand and guiding you through and saying, okay, this is the next step. And, a lot of people, I'd say most people like to be told, here's the next step. Most people like to be told, this is next. Let's do this next. And really it's the sign of, it's a challenge for people who aren't great at learning independently, who aren't experienced rather at sort of just taking control of their own learning and saying, okay, I know what I need, I know what my needs are, and I'm gonna do this because this is gonna tackle that need. A lot of people can't identify that. They just want to be told, okay, this is next. This is next. You're on this stage. This is the next stage. So what I want to say to you is this: if you have hit a plateau, if you're an intermediate level and you've hit a plateau and you don't know what to do from here, or you feel like you've hit a slump, okay, usually it's for one of two reasons. The first reason being you've already achieved the goals that you had. Okay, so you had a goal to finish a book, or you had a goal to complete an online course, and you've already achieved it. Okay, and it's usually at that point where you're gonna hit a plateau because you don't know where to go next. Number two, the other possible reason would be that you have no goals. You never had goals. So you've just gone into it. You've been learning, because when you start out learning a language, everything is new, and it doesn't matter what you do because everything is measurably progressive. It's all brand new. But, eventually you hit a point where it's like, okay, I actually need to have goals if I'm going to get somewhere with this. The thing is, you need to have big and small goals. You need to have macro and micro goals if you want to keep on moving forward. And this is something you'll have to always do. A really poor goal is something that is way too general. And I'll give you an example. A general goal, a goal that is too general is, I want to be able to speak this language. I want to be fluent in French. Now, that's not a bad goal, but it's very general. So it doesn't give you anything specific to aim for. Okay, a good alternative to that, a good macro goal for that would be, I want to pass a B2 French exam before the end of the year. So you see the difference there. One is, I just want to be able to speak the language. The other one is, I want to be able to do this specific thing. I want to be able to pass this specific exam by this specific time. So it's very specific, and within that macro goal, that large goal, then you've got smaller, what I call micro goals, that are like little stepping stones toward completing that final goal. So naturally, the question to ask is this: what achievable and measurable micro goals, small goals, can I set for myself that will help me to achieve my big, achievable, measurable macro goal at the end of the year or whenever it is? What small goals can I set that will be like stepping stones towards that big thing that I want to finish, that I want to do? So anything that you're doing that does not help you reach that big goal that you've set yourself is a waste of time. And that's how you have to see it. You've got to see it as a waste of time. You should always be asking yourself, when you're doing a learning activity, when you're doing any kind of learning activity, you should always be saying to yourself, is this moving me towards that goal? Is this actually benefiting me? Is it bringing me closer to that goal? If it's not, or you're not sure, it's probably a waste of time. It's probably just an activity that makes you feel busy, feeling busy rather than actually being productive. I think of courses, course books, structured programs, a bit like training wheels on a bike, or hand holding until you can stand on your own feet. If you reach a point where you feel stuck, it's because in most cases, it's because you're so used to being told what the next step is that you haven't quite figured out yet how to take charge of your own learning. So you need to realize, just come to this realization that you are now in control of your learning. It's up to you to be creative. It's up to you to identify your weak areas, and it's up to you to steer your own learning. Okay, you've covered all of the chapters of a course book. Your foundation is set. Okay, think of the foundation has now been set, and now it's up to you to personalize and strategize your own learning plan. Unfortunately, nobody else can tell you what that looks like. That's something you need to figure out for yourself. So a big part of the problem is predictability, predictable routines in our learning strategies. I came across this really cool, it's totally unrelated to this topic, but I came across this cool video by where Arnold Schwarzenegger is interviewed about his workout routines. And in it, he's talking about one of the things that was very important to him in his bodybuilding was predictability, was not having predictable workout routines. And he calls it the shocking principle, where he doesn't let his body predict what's coming next. I want you to take a listen to this.
Sometimes the body will hit a wall. And what that basically means is that the body is saying, look, I know all your tricks. I know you're going to start first with bench press. And then I know you're going to walk over to the chin-up bar and do chin-ups. And then I know you're coming back to the bench press. And then you go to the chin-up bar and come back to bench press. I know that routine. I know exactly everything you do. And I am prepared for that. So you have to go and use the shocking principle. If the body and if this chest knows that I'm going to start with 135 and then I go to 225 and do 275, I'm going to go and start now with 315. And I'm going to do 20 reps with 315. And then I'm going to go and have the guys pull off plates. And then I have 225 left. And then I'm going to do another 10 reps. Then I'm going to have them take off another 45-pound plate, and then I have 135 left. And then I'm going to go to do another 10 reps. Or maybe if I can, do 15 or 20 reps. And let's see if the pectoral muscle is used to that. And then all of a sudden you will find that your pectoral muscle is shaking after that, and you don't know what to do because it's cramping and it is being tortured. And it is in pain because you've now shocked the muscle.
Most of us develop very predictable routines with learning too, the same way. We have our favorite apps, for example, Duolingo, our favorite course books, and so on. And what these do, they become part of our predictable routine, which ends up resulting in very dull learning. It starts to become boring, basically. When you finish these predictable learning routines, then you're left wondering what to do next. You don't know what to do next because they become so comfortable. Strategies like these start to lose their effectiveness over time when there's no variation. So, I want you to just take Arnold Schwarzenegger's advice and shock it. Shock your brain, in a sense. Shock your system. Instead of signing on to Duolingo, like you always do, have a creative and constantly changing strategy for learning. Never let your study become routine and dull. This is the ultimate progress killer. It really is a progress killer when you become, you go through the motions. You do the same thing all the time. Now, this is totally up to you. How you do this is totally up to you. Rotate your learning routine so that, one day you'll be focusing on your speaking, and then the next day it might be reading, and then, after that you'll be focused on your listening comprehension skills and so on. Change up the topics, change up the difficulty levels, keep it constantly varied. Variation and unpredictability is key. If you're stuck, if you're ever stuck wondering what to do next, there is a very simple way to figure it out, in my opinion. This is something that I do. And this is what I say to you. This is the advice I give you. Have a conversation about or describe something very specific. Pick one specific thing, one specific topic, and try to have a conversation about it. Even if it's just with yourself, just talk about it. Just pick a topic, any topic, and start talking about it right now. Describe an object, describe something. So, for example, let's say you've reached a point in the language that you're learning and you're wondering what to do next. You pick a very specific topic. For example, how to fix something on your car. Let's say your radiator's broken on your car and you want to talk about how to fix it. Or you've got a hole in your pants and you want to talk about how to stitch the hole up in your pants. Or you want to talk about what happened in Game of Thrones, the last week's episode of Game of Thrones. If you can't do that, then that's your homework. Okay, if you can't address that one particular topic, if you can't talk about it, then make that the next thing that you're doing. Spend the whole week learning all the vocab and expressions needed to talk about that particular thing, about those things. If you can't comfortably talk about something, then that's what you should focus on next. If you're stuck wondering what do I do next, then just pick a topic and focus on it until you can do it. Until you can rattle on and on about it, then at least you know that there's the one thing that you need to do, that there's one topic that you need to work on. In language learning, you measure your progress not by how well you grasp grammar or how well you can complete coursebook exercises. You always measure your progress by how well you can apply the language to the world around you. And that's the key takeaway from this episode. You measure progress by how well you can apply that language that you know to the world around you. If there are things that you can't discuss, then you know you've got work to do. So, in the past, I've given an example about my time in Egypt recently, where I was actually going through I was kind of hitting a point as well where I was like, I don't know what to do next. I felt, my command of Egyptian Arabic is excellent, and I was struggling. I was like, I don't know what to do next, and I went into a supermarket and I had to buy some meat. I had to buy some meat for dinner, and it just hit me all of a sudden. I was like, I don't know how to talk to my butcher about the various different types of cuts. And actually this is something that, every country you go to, they cut meat differently. There's different, you've got, minced meat, and then you've got, I don't know, there's loads of different ways of cutting the meat up and preparing it for sale, And so I made this decision one day. I was like, I really want to be able to come into this butcher and I want to be able to talk about all of these different cuts and variations of, varieties of meat. I want to know how to order that the right way. I want to do it. I mean, I know how to order meat from a butcher, but I want to do it the way that the locals do it. I want to do it very, very natively, so to speak. And so this ended up becoming a very highly targeted learning goal for me, and I spent a lot of time on it actually. And it sounds crazy, but I spent weeks focusing on the butcher, But it was a real world application. It was a topic from the real world that had use to me. It was something that I felt I didn't feel confident to do, and I just spent a lot of time focused on meat. It sounds crazy, but there's this kind of thing, and it's this kind of creativity that you need to have if you want to get beyond those intermediate learning plateaus. So here's the key takeaway from the episode: identify a real world application, real world topics, and just make it your mission to talk about those things. And that's it. I hope this helps. Make sure to subscribe. I look forward to talking to you again.